For those of you who don't know me, I'm Gaynor. I own the school, and I'm obviously not at the school right now, but my home. We are going to just give you the order we're going to do everything in. We're going to start the dessert, which is the first 2 steps for that. Then we're going to make the gumbo and let that cook for an hour. And then we're going to do the rice, put the dessert in the oven. So ovens, 1 oven on 300, 2 ovens, 1 at 300, 1 at 350. So let's just look at the dessert recipe first. It looks rather long and complicated. It really isn't. But let's just take a look at this. We are going to do the first 2 bits initially, all right? We're going to cook it in a like an 8x8 baking dish, pie dish, something like that. If it isn't actually 8x8, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to use this. And then I have about 2 cups of about 1-inch size bread cubes, okay, which is going to go in the bottom of here. All right. And also, what you should do first, I beg your pardon, I meant to do this before I started. Spray the bottom, grease the bottom first, guys. Sorry, I was thinking I'd already done it, and I suddenly realized that I put it in. I hadn't. Yeah, so give it a grease the bottom first. It'll make it easy, obviously, to get it out. I'm using one of these new little sprayers. I bought it on Amazon. You can put your own oil in it, which is a little better and healthier than using the palm spray. I think they're great. All right, so the breadcrumbs go in there like that, and just lay them flat in the bottom. All right, now you're going to need your food processor or your blender, because what we're going to do with this in here, we are going to put a cup of milk. Make sure I get everything in there. All right, cup of milk, egg. Okay, woo, cup of milk. Your egg. Okay, get rid of these. And we're going to put in, and then also a 1/4 cup of sugar, and your cinnamon, vanilla, and nutmeg. All right, so they're all going to go in there as well. And also your very ripe banana. Now, if one of your bananas isn't really ripe, it may take a little bit more to mix this up. All right, but I actually had a very ripe one, which is a small one, which is perfect. Good way of using it up. All right, so that's going to go in as well. And 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Here we go. 2 little things of vanilla. There we go, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. So you want to just, my dog is here to supervise me. She's sitting on the floor over there. So you want to blend this together. All right. And then this mixture is going to just go over those breadcrumbs, all over the top like that, without dropping the attachment inside. And then to that, we're going to add raisins, about 3 tablespoons of raisins. Doesn't have to be exact, can be a bit more if you like, doesn't really matter. And pecans, or if you haven't got pecans, walnuts will be fine. I toasted these in a skillet first, and then I broke them up a little bit. And then you want to mix that round a little bit. Make sure your bread's all covered in the milky mixture. And we're just going to set this to one side for about 20 to 30 minutes, all right, before it goes in the oven. So dead simple, all right, and a lovely filling dessert for later on. All right, so that's really, really very straightforward and simple. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of the butter on, but we can wait and do that in a minute. All right, we can just dot that tablespoon of butter on the top. I'm going to put it right next to this so I don't forget. And we're going to put that on right before we put it in the oven. All right. Okay, so now let's look at the gumbo. Gumbo is probably my favorite Cajun Louisiana dish. It's probably the most famous as well. It's basically a stew containing a combination. It's often oysters, crabs, sausage, chicken, or shrimp, along with a variety of chopped vegetables. Its name is derived from the African word for okra, which is gumbo. All gumbos are thickened with either okra or file powder, or in our case, flour if you haven't got file powder, which is made from dried sassafras roots, originally discovered by the Chow Indians. Gumbos also have a roux base, similar to a classic French roux. Now, French roux is made with butter and flour. A Cajun roux is made with oil and flour. All right. And part of the reason for that is that we Cajun roux are cooked much further until they're much browner. So you have a brown or black roux, whereas French ones are usually either a blonde or a white roux. Different emphasis. The idea with Cajun roux is you get that lovely smoky taste from the roux that you make, because you let it cook to the point of being smoky, and gives this lovely rich brown color, and of course taste to characteristic taste to the dish. Okay, so we will be doing that in a minute. What we're going to do first, though, your chicken pieces. Now I have mine. I'm going to move this little thing over here a bit, and I'm going to bring my other tray out. I have cut my chicken still on the bone. We do it on the bone because 2 reasons. Chicken gets overcooked if it's cooked for an hour or 2, if it's not on the bone. And when you make a stew, you're usually cooking something for a long time, so you want your chicken to be on the bone. I've cut my pieces sort of this size. They can be slightly smaller or slightly bigger. It's up to you. All right. So what you want to do, you want a fairly heavy bottoms skillet, a good solid skillet. And that's my piece of ham, which needs to sit over there. All right. So I am going to use my skillet here, and I'm putting in, I've got like 2.5, 3 tablespoons of oil. And we're going to let this get hot. Now, what we want to do is we're going to put the chicken pieces in, and we're going to brown them all over and then take them out again. So you need something to put them in when you take them out, because they're going to go in, browned, come out, and then our vegetables are going to go in. All right. So while that's heating, let's talk about the other ingredients we have here. I have andouille sausage, which you can get much more easily now than you used to be able to. You didn't used to be able to get it very easily, but now you can get it. And obviously you can just use a garlic sausage, but I got these. They come in 1 pound packs at the grocery store. So you want to cut these into little rounds, you know, about 1/4 inch thick, something like that. Okay, so they're going to go there. You don't want to add your chicken until your oil's fairly hot, guys, because you want it to sort of seal on the outside pretty quickly. All right, we also have onion. Now, for our onion, and this might be where you want to go to the overhead view here, guys. If you don't know how to cut an onion well, I can show you how to do that. I don't quite know why I can't switch over, but I used to do my things the other way around. I have an iPad here and my Chromebook here, but when I got the Chromebook, I found out that I couldn't really, I don't know, technology got the better of me, and I couldn't work out how to do the sound on my Chromebook with my earbuds. I lost the sound, so I do my earbuds through my iPad. So it just gets a bit confusing. But anyway, if you want to go to the overhead, because I'll show you how to cut the onion. I have a 1/2 an onion here, okay, because we need about 1/2 cup, and that's going to be about what I have here. So I want to dice this. So I leave the root intact right here. I take my knife and I make a cut down, but not cutting through the root. So it's like that. And then I go next to it and I do another cut. And then I go next to it and do another cut. So I'm doing cuts all the way around the onion, but trying to avoid cutting through the roots. Just makes it easier when you go to dice it now, if it's all held together at one end. So I have it like this. You can see it's kind of separated out there, okay? And then I'm going to hold this like this, and then hold my onion like I'm grabbing it like this, and I'm gonna try and cut equal size pieces, and then with a bit of luck, all my onion will be similar size. It's kind of important, an onion, because it means it cooks all at the same rate and you don't get burnt bits and undercooked bits. So that's a good reason for doing that. All right, my oil is looking pretty hot now, so I'm going to put my chicken pieces in. Now you can put them in either skin side, it doesn't matter. Try and leave a little bit of space between them. That will help them go brown quicker. When you're cutting through the bone, take your knife, use this back part of your knife, the thick part of your knife. Put the knife on top of it. Don't saw, and then hit through like that. All right, or go like this. You don't want to. You won't damage the knife if you do that. But if you saw backwards and forwards, you'll damage the knife. All right, but you always want to hit it. If you've got a meat cleaver, that works well too. It's a bit big anyway. All right, so that's my onion. There's my andouille, and then my ham. This is left over from my Christmas ham. I'm going to cut this again. Just cut this into sort of 1/2-inch cubes, okay? Just getting equal size pieces. All right, so that's my ham. And then green pepper. With your green pepper, we want to cut this into similar size pieces. So just cut strips first, about the same size, like that. And then cut your strips in small dice. Try and get them pretty much the same size if you can. Don't mince backwards and forwards because you'll end up with all different sizes. It's better to do it like this, and then you'll get pieces pretty much the same size. And my scallion, 1 scallion should be enough because we need, like, what I say, 2 tablespoons. Okay, so I'm gonna just cut this, slice it across, small pieces, all the way down. So you want that chicken to get brown, all right, on each side, and then turn it over the piece to the other side, all right? We also want a little bit of minced garlic. If I do my garlic clove. About a teaspoon, roughly. It doesn't have to be exact. I've got 1 whole clove here. What I'm going to do, I'm taking the garlic clove, and to break it, I'm putting the back of my knife on top of the clove, and I'm going to hit it like that, which just cracks the outside. Okay, and then peel it off. And then we want to mince this. Now, what I suggest you do, cut it in a few places like that. And then when we mince, flatten your hand on the front of your knife like this and go backwards and forwards over your garlic to make it nice and small. If it really sticks to your knife, you can use a little bit of salt with it if you want to. Ooh, I've got a bit of skin in there. There we go. Obviously, you can put a bit more garlic in if you want to. Make sure that outside is nice and brown because that enhances the flavor of your dish. If the skin or the meat side of it is nice and brown. All right, what else? A little bit of parsley. So a bit of fresh parsley. Oop. I washed this earlier. If you haven't washed your parsley, you should wash it and dry it well before you try and chop it. Otherwise, it's really hard to chop up. Now this, again, I'm going to take out the main stem and discard that from my parsley, just like this. Throw that bit away, but not pick every single piece off. All right. And the parsley wants to be minced like the garlic. Nice and small. See, I'm keeping my hand flat, moving the back of the knife backwards and forwards for the garlic, for the parsley. There we go. All right, let's see how these are doing. Yeah, they're getting pretty brown on the back here. So I'm going to turn them over the other way and let them get nice and brown on the second side. So what we will do when they're brown, we will take those out. We're then going to add the flour, which is our 2 tablespoons of flour, and we're going to cook the vegetables, then we're going to add the flour. No, that's right. We're going to do the roux first. Sorry, it's not on me today. Yeah, we're going to make the roux. So we're going to put the 2 tablespoons of flour in there with the oil, and we're going to let that cook until it gets medium brown in color, and it'll smell slightly smoky. All right. And then we will add some of the other ingredients. And then this is going to cook for about an hour. All right. Just in the skillet, I usually do it over low heat, and then I'm going to cover it as well. And hopefully you have your little seasonings all together here as well. This is your salt, pepper, bay leaf, cayenne, thyme, and your file powder, if you have it, is for later, or you could just use flour. It's just a thickening agent. Flour works just as well. We'll probably find these will brown a little quicker on the second side. Yeah, mine are pretty much brown. Yeah, if you're doing the non-skin side second, they tend to brown much more quickly. Woo! That one needs a little bit longer. Now you need a wooden spoon to do your roux. Just waiting for my last piece to come out. This one's taking a little bit longer. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. So all you should have in your pan now is just your oil and the extra fat from the chicken skin. Okay. So now what I want you to do, take 2 tablespoons of flour. Keep your temperature medium hot. All right. Put your flour in like that, all of it in, and stir it around. You can see I'm stirring it up like that. And then I'm going to put this back on the flame, turn my heat up a tiny bit. So it's about medium hot, okay? And you're going to let this mixture carry on cooking until it goes golden brown, and it should start to smell smoky, okay? And it will take a couple of minutes. They just want to be like lightly crispy on the skin side and a bit of color on the second side, okay? And this will take a couple of minutes for this to go brown. There we go. And as I say, this is where that lovely smoky flavor is going to develop, is with the browning of this roux. That's all that's what does it. Turn my heat up a little bit. Okay, while that's doing that, because I think my thing's been done about 20 minutes, I'm going to take those little bits of butter and I'm going to place them on my dessert. I'm going to cut it up, put it on the dessert, and then pop this in the oven. All right. So take your butter and cut it in little pieces and just drop it on the top, over the top of the dessert. Okay. And my thing's starting to get brown, which is good, and I'll show you in a second. So I've just scattered it across the top. All right. And how long am I putting in for? I can't remember. Half an hour, I think it is, isn't it? Oh, an hour. Sorry. All right. So we're going to put foil on the top. Piece of foil on the top like that, and pop it in your 300 oven, and put it on for an hour. And what will happen is all that stuff will get absorbed. So it's like a bread. This is a bread pudding. There we go. Oops. Okay, lovely. Okay, my roux has gone brown. Can you see? And it's smoky. I'm going to put my extractor fan on for a minute because I don't want to set my alarm off. All right. Can you see that? Nice brown color. I'm going to put it back on. Now I'm going to add my other ingredients. Okay. So my chicken goes back in. It'll do that. My andouille. Make sure I get everything in there. So my andouille. Everything else goes in. Your parsley, your onions. Your seasoning. And we're just going to stir this over a low heat for a few minutes. My extractor fan makes so much noise. I sometimes don't put the chicken right in at this stage, but I have put it in now. It doesn't matter. So what's this doing? This is starting the cooking of the vegetables and coating the vegetables before we put the broth in, all right? And then we're going to put the broth in and we're going to let this cook for about an hour, okay? The only thing that doesn't go in is your last minute thickener, either your file powder or that extra bit of flour at the end that we will use at the very end to thicken it a little bit. So I'm going to turn that down to low. I'm going to leave that for about another 8 to 10 minutes. All right. So I'm going to put my timer on so that for 8 minutes and let that cook over a low heat before we put the chicken broth in. All right. Smells good already. Turn my heat down a wee bit, a little high. There we go. Now, gumbo is traditionally served with rice, sometimes just with plain rice. But we are going to make Cajun rice, which is very, very easy and very, very delicious. My chicken broth looks a bit funny. It's because it's homemade chicken broth and I reduce it down and keep it in cubes in the freezer. So when I defrost it, I put it in water and it kind of floats around like little goldfish floating around in there. So it looks kind of strange. So for my rice, We're doing just a small amount, so you need something that this will go in, all right? Normally I put it, I do 3 times this, 3 or 4 times this, and we do it in like a loaf pan. But you want something that it sort of just about fills the bottom of the pan. I'll show you in a second what I'm going to use. So I have my rice here. I have my clove of garlic. In here, I have diced onions, green pepper, and celery. All right, the amount that is on the recipe, 2 tablespoons, I think, or 1.5 tablespoons. Okay, and then I have my 2 cups of chicken stock. Now you want to have the right amount of chicken stock because you want to make sure that when this is cooked, this is fully absorbed. All right, all of that, and then I have my butter right here. Okay, so you want some size container that will hold that, obviously oven-proof container that will hold your rice. I'm going to go with just, I have a little enamel cast iron dish here. What I want you to do is to place your rice in, excuse me, in your bowl. And we're basically just going to mix everything else together. All right. So my veggies go in. I've got my butter here. So I'm just going to cut it in a couple of pieces. And then I have another clove of garlic, which I'm going to mince up. And my broth all goes in. I'll put my broth in as I've got it here. Put my broth in. There we go. And then my clove of garlic, and then just some salt and pepper. A really big clove of garlic, but I love garlic, so that's okay. And I'm going to mince this up again, just so it mixes in, distributes well in the dish. In there. Half a teaspoon of salt. A little pinch of cayenne pepper. You can be a bit more generous if you want. I'm going to be a little bit more generous because I like things a little spicy, but don't go too mad. All right. And a couple of turns of pepper. So mix this together with some sort of spoon before you try and put it in your container. I'm just going to see if it's going to fit in that container. Actually, I may end up using a slightly bigger one. I mean, basically what happens is, so all this is going to go in here. Basically what happens is it cooks for about an hour usually. And all the liquid gets absorbed. And usually by the time the liquid's absorbed, your rice is cooked. So you just keep an eye on it really, and we'll just check it. We'll just check it a little sooner to see, okay? So I have mine in here, and I'm going to cover this with foil. I should have oiled it, but I didn't. It should be all right in here. On the cast iron one, it's usually okay. All right, and then this is going to cook at about 350. I'm going to put the timer on for 45 minutes, and we will check it. Say it's a case of when it's cooked, all the liquid's evaporated and it tastes cooked. So, you know, it's pretty, that's what's so lovely about it. It's really easy. I did not grease my pan. If you guys did, that's good. I didn't. It's the trouble when I'm doing this online. I'm looking and checking what I'm doing, and I sometimes forget to do things. But never mind, we'll be all right. All right. This is looking good. Smells, hopefully yours smells really good. This smells great already. You can smell that lovely sort of traditional smell. We've got about a minute left, so I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to pour my 2 cups of stock on. And then I want you to bring that to a boil, okay, before we reduce it to a simmer and then put it towards the back of your stove or something if you can. And we want to periodically, we're going to turn this over and turn the meat over, I should say, periodically to make sure it cooks fairly evenly. All right. Often I do this when I do a big amount of this. I usually do it in like a Dutch oven, but again, I don't have the right size Dutch
I'm
oven.
confused. Are you back to the gumbo?
Yes, I am. Sorry. I put the 2 cups of stock in for the gumbo, but you do want to bring that mixture to a boil, and then reduce it to a simmer, and then put it on a back burner or something. All right, once it comes to a boil, and you'll notice that it's thickened very slightly from that flour that was in there from the roux before. I'm almost at a boil here. All right, so I've got my rice done. I can move that out of the way. Okay, mine is just starting to bubble, so I'm going to put my lid on. I'm going to move it back over here and let it cook on a simmer, stirring it periodically. There we go. So we can kind of sort of forget about that, but not really. No, we can be checking it as we go along, just turning the meat over to enable it to cook evenly. You should have your file powder or your extra flour. That's the only thing you should have left for that dish. And I'm wiping out some of the grease because it kind of splattered quite a bit. All right, everybody okay? Thumbs up. I'm looking at you up here. Are we doing good?
The fish pieces are white.
Everyone all right? Yes? All right. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to come back to our dessert sauce for the banana bread pudding. All right. Just one word I want to say to you, and I should have said this in the things I sent you. The alcohol. If you've measured it out ahead of time, just drink that bit because you need stuff that hasn't been measured out ahead of time. The reason for that is the alcohol content evaporates a lot and it won't light when we go to light it. So you might have to use a bit more. All right. And I should have mentioned that when I sent you the information. I completely forgot. So it's not a big deal if it doesn't light, or you can't, not that big a deal. So for our sauce, we have some butter, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 large bananas, additional bananas, cut it in quarters, and some cinnamon. We're basically going to, this is a bit like making bananas Foster, really, for this, okay? And so what we're going to cook those bananas in the butter and the brown sugar with the cinnamon and the nutmeg. And then we are going to ignite the rum and the banana liqueur and add that to the mixture. Okay, and then this wants to be served warm, but we can turn it off and we can reheat it when we're ready to serve the bread pudding at the end. Okay, the cream for this recipe, we're just going to whip the cream, and we'll do that a little bit later. All right. So you want a smallish saute pan or skillet that will hold your banana pieces. All right. So yeah, let's get those. All right, so in here, you are going to put your half a stick of butter into your skillet. So put your butter in your skillet along with your brown sugar. Again, if you don't have brown sugar, white works fine, but brown's kind of nice. And we're going to let that melt. I'm going to let that melt first before I put my bananas in. So just let it melt a little bit and add your cinnamon and your nutmeg. All right. In the recipe, you've got a third of a teaspoon of cinnamon and a pinch of nutmeg. All right. And that's going to go in as well. And we'll let that melt while we cut up our bananas. So we're basically going to do these. Doesn't really matter how you cut them, really. But oops. So I'm going to cut my bananas in half this way and then in pieces like that. All right. If you want to do them in rounds, you can do that. It's fine. Or you can cut them in quarters the other way. Just a little easier to let that mixture to melt a little bit first before you put your bananas in. All right. Now, the idea is here, we are going to gently cook these bananas in here just until they begin to soften. So I'm letting my mixture melt. It's almost melted. So I'm going to start putting my bananas in. Keep your heat fairly low, okay? Just lay your bananas in. Hopefully I'm going to get them all in this pan. Should be able to. I have to squeeze that down a bit. I don't want to use a bigger pan because I don't want to evaporate too much. There we go. So we're going to let those cook for a few minutes until they're soft, and you want to turn them over. Probably once is fine. As they start to soften, do it gently with maybe a pair of tongs or a spatula or something to turn them over, okay? As I say, with your rum and that, we're going to do that in a minute, all right? Don't have your heat too high because you don't want to burn the sugar mixture, okay? Now, I'm saying about a minute. It depends how ripe your bananas are. Mine weren't, these particular ones weren't terribly ripe, so they may take a little bit longer. You don't want them like banana jam, all right? You want them just fairly, still holding their shape at least, okay? Cream or the vanilla, sugar. All right. Trying to keep a clean workstation here. Doesn't always work. Just watch that heat. Make sure it doesn't get too hot. I probably should have quartered them the other way because they probably would have fitted in my pan a bit better, but doesn't matter. So let's see if they're softening. As I say, mine are definitely going to take more than a minute because they are a little firmer. But once they feel sort of a little bit soft underneath, try and gently turn them over. It's not terrible. It's not going to taste any worse if they fall apart, believe me. It's going to taste just as good. Yeah, mine are starting, they're doing okay, considering they weren't terribly ripe. Bananas are like avocados. They're never the ripeness that you want them to be, are they? When they're, when you want to make banana bread, they're underripe. when you want a fresh banana, they're overripe. So. All right, I seem to be doing. Oh, they look good. I can eat them right now. I'm starving. I didn't have any lunch. I realised. Took my dogs for a walk, came back, and thought, oh, started getting organised, and didn't think about lunch. So all you should have left now, you should have some sugar, a little bit of vanilla, and some cream for this dish. All right, those should be the things that we have left, and obviously your booze. All right, so mine, they're getting soft. I'm going to move these to the back burner. Turn them down really low, let them carry on cooking for it. Now, we're going to do the rum. I think I sound like Mary Poppins when I say rum like that. So now the thing with this, because of the amount we're doing is a very small amount. If you want to do more, you can, but it might just light better, but you probably don't want to add all of it to this because it's going to be too strong. We are going to ignite this. We're going to flambe, which is going to burn off the alcohol. All right. And then we're going to pour that onto our bananas. All right. So I am going to turn my overhead camera around so you can see my stovetop. So if you want to go to the overhead one, you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. Okay. So I am going to take my bananas look done, so I'm going to turn them off at the back. All right. So you may just want to watch this first. I'm going to add my tablespoon of rum. Woo! That was a lot of rum. And I have banana liqueur. If you don't have banana liqueur, you can just use more rum. Or you can use other booze too. It doesn't matter. It does need to be real alcohol, though. You know, alcohol is with a high percentage of alcohol. Otherwise, it doesn't light. Okay. Now, we're going to heat this very briefly, and then we're going to light it. Now, when you light it, you can do it with a lighter. If you have gas, you can tilt the pan and do it, light the flame with the gas. All right, and I'll show you. So I'm going to put this on, and I'm putting it on high. Come on, burner. Now, it's only 2 tablespoons. It's going to heat up real quick, all right, which is great. You just want to see a few bubbles around the outside. And I'm going to turn this light off, and then maybe you'll be able to see mine catch fire. I'm not sure whether you will or not. I've got these overhead. Let me turn my overhead light off so that you can, I'm going to go over here and turn the overhead light up from it so you can see. There we go. Hopefully you can see, because it's quite spectacular. All right, you should be able to see now. All right, so I've got this like this. It's heating up. Now, I'm going to turn my pan on its side, and it lights. And then I'm going to pour it on my bananas and shake them backwards and forwards. Can you see? And shake it until the flame goes out. Now, because I've got a fairly shallow pan, some of my booze went on the thing, so it that caught fire as well. But what you have to do, let me just show you again. I'm not going to do the same thing, but you light it. What you need to do, don't do what I did, because I've got a nice wooden countertop, what you call it, top of it. I actually burnt this once. But what you want to do is pick up your pan and go like that and put your pan down. Don't do it towards you. Don't do it like this and lean over it, because you're going to singe your eyebrows. Okay? You want to go, you just got to pick it up, dump it in, put the pan down. Okay? Okay, off you go. I'm gonna pull it up on my big screen up here, see if I can see up here. But this is why you can't measure out your alcohol ahead of time, because the alcohol evaporates and it won't light. So that can just sit now until we're ready to serve the dessert, all right? Because it's going to get served on the top. All right, is it light enough? Yeah, let me go and put the other light back on. So while we're at it, let's give our chicken a turn. Hopefully it's simmering away. Now remember, gumbo is a stew sort of soup, so that liquid should be fairly liquidy. That's why we put the lid on. All right, let me look at my plan of attack here. Oh, our corn. All right, we're going to do the corn and the bacon dish now. Let me pull mine out. I have my fish on here as well. All right, so you want a bowl. To mix this in. So our ingredients for this, we have our corn, a little bit of vegetable oil, small onion, thinly sliced. I have a half an onion, which I'm going to slice. A little bit of green bell pepper chopped. I already have mine actually chopped because I chopped it for the other thing. Tomato, which I'm going to chop. Salt, pepper, a little bit of milk, cayenne, some scallion chopped up, and then some pre-cooked bacon. I've already cooked my bacon here. If you didn't, I suggest you kind of put that on to cook now, okay? So, for the corn, I have 3 half ears here because they're fairly big, so I'm just going to do the 3. What I want you to do is to cut, instead of cutting right the way next to the, you know, the bit you don't eat, I don't know, the core of it, I want you to cut about halfway over a bowl. Actually, I'm going to use a big knife, it works better. Like halfway into the corn. So in other words, you're kind of shaving it in half first, all the way around. You're going to take it all off, but you're going to do this bit first because then some of the juices come out. So you want to go around, you're actually going to go around each piece twice. I'm probably going to end up with about a cut and 3/4, cut in half. I've only got 3 biggish ones here because I was thinking they were going to be big enough. I probably could have done with a bit more. So it's not the easiest thing to do, this. It's fiddly, more fiddly than it looks. So if you had a nice fresh corn, it would be easier because it would be crisper and everything. But we can manage with what we have, right? Well, I'm getting a fair amount of juice out of here. Actually, I'm quite surprised, more than I expected. A bit more on that one. Yeah, if you manage to cut like halfway into them, not all the way in, you will get, even with the frozen ones, you will get a little, you know, a little bit of that milk, the, you know, corn milk out of it. Also, if you scrape the husk, that's the word. If you scrape the husk a bit, you might get a bit more liquid out of it. Oh. Messy, but never mind. So there we go. Okay. Okay. All right. So we have the corn. You should have a little bit of milk. I got milk there. Good. And then we're going to cook. We're going to medium skillet. All right, medium skillet for this, guys. I'm going to decide which one I'm going to use. I think this one. So heat up a medium skillet. All right. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to heat up a little bit of oil in the skillet. Add our onion, which I'm going to chop up, and our green pepper, and cook until the onion is slightly transparent. All right. So same way we did the other onion. All right. Except Am I doing rings? Oh, yeah, I'm doing slices. Sorry. We're doing slices. So we're just going to take the half and cut it in slices. All right. If you've got the whole onion, then do both halves. But obviously, I've got a fairly big onion here. So I'm just going to do the half. Nice skinny slices. All right. So we're going to put in your green pepper and your onions. Cook them over sort of medium, really, because we want them to soften. We don't want them really to get any color. Okay. Now, you should have, as I say, you should have your scallion chopped up. If you haven't, you want to chop that into small pieces. 4 teaspoons of milk. A little bit of salt, cayenne pepper. And we're going to chop up a tomato. So with the tomato, we're just going to cut this into slices and cut it into small cubes, okay? Try and keep your pieces fairly equal size. And then turn them the other way. This is for my salmon. Great. So about 5 to 8 minutes on this. Again, you really want those onions to be fairly soft, and then we're going to add the other ingredients to it. And then we're going to lower the heat and let it cook for about 20 minutes until it's nice and soft. And then we're going to add some salt and some cayenne pepper, and then cook it for about another 10 minutes. And then we'll turn it off, and we'll add the scallions and the bacon at the end. Okay, but we can turn it off and reheat it, or you can turn it off and reheat it when you're ready to eat it. And the trick is at the end, if it's not as thick as you want it after we've added the flour, you can reduce, let it cook with the lid off a little bit longer, but you don't want it to reduce because it might burn. Sort of related. When we went to Mexico, strong French influence there, which I didn't really know why, but I met a guy who has a Mexican restaurant in Mount Lebanon, actually on Route 19, and he's from near Mexico City, and he was telling me that that's because when the French were there, and then when they left, a lot of people stayed, and a lot of the chefs stayed, and their influence on the cuisine is very notable. Like their pastries in the pastry stores are very similar to a lot of French pastries. And he said, yeah, you find that all over Mexico, particularly in the big cities. There's a big influence of the French, French influence. And obviously the same in New Orleans, with the French being there as well. And of course, the Spanish and the Indians and everything, and other Caribbeans. So there's just such a diverse, cuisine there because of that very fact. And then, of course, the people that were living down there got driven north by those damn British and went up to Nova Scotia. And then when they came back, they brought stuff back from there. So, it's It's really pretty interesting how these, I mean, to me, the Cajun Creole cooking is the most, well, I think the most interesting in the US as far as, presence and everything. It's some of their dishes are amazing and very, very different from anything you get anywhere else in the country. So it's kind of neat. All right, let's see how my onions are doing. Now you want your onions to go sort of transparent. Okay, mine are just about there, I think, which means you can sort of see through them. You can see light through them. So now we are going to add our corn. And that little bit of milk. And our tomatoes. I'm going to put those in there, so they're going to go all over the place. Whoops. And turn your heat down to nice and low. Give it a stir around. And let it cook for about another 20 minutes. Now, I have a fairly big pan here, so I am going to cover this, partially cover it. Again, because I don't want too much evaporation. I'm going to put it half on, half off like this, so that I get in a little bit of protection for it, because I don't want it to evaporate too much. About 20 minutes longer, and then we're just going to we'll crumble up the bacon and the scallions and put that on the top. All right. How are we doing for timing on these? We're getting there. 16 minutes. Good. Perfect. All right. So let's, before we forget, let's just whip this cream that's going to go with the dessert. All right. So I'm saying, I don't know how much I've got in here. I probably got a bit more than a quarter of a cup. But we're going to whip it with a bit of sugar and put the vanilla in it. All right. So you just want a bowl. You can whip it in. I wouldn't suggest, I mean, if you've got a hand mixer, you can do it with a hand mixer. I only have my big electric mixer. So I'm going to do mine by hand. All right. Because that amount of cream in the electric mixer isn't going to do anything. So I'm going to burn off some of my calories. So that dessert I'm going to have a bit later. All right. So what you want to do when you whip cream, you want to whip it to soft peaks first before you put any sugar in. All right. Otherwise it won't whip. So this is going to take a few minutes. If you're doing it with a hand mixer, you're going to get there much quicker than me. We are only doing a small amount. And I'll show you what soft peaks look like. A small amount, you should get there pretty quick. All right, I'm at soft peaks. Can you see there? It's just kind of just holding its shape. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of sugar. I'm going to add a little bit at a time. Do it in like 2 or 3 lots. You know, in Europe, we don't have to sweeten our cream. We just use it as it is because it has much higher percentage of butter fat. American heavy cream only has 32% butter fat. British and French, and well, anything in Europe really, is 52%. So it's much higher in butter fat and therefore really nice to eat without any sugar in it. So you got more fat, less sugar. All right, and then your little bit of vanilla in there as well. You don't have to put vanilla in. And then we're just going to pop this in the fridge. This is just purely for decoration on top of your nice stiff peaks so it doesn't come out the bowl. All right. Yum, yum. Okay. So I'm just going to wipe my counter off, and I think we should be ready to get our fish ready. Now, I don't know, as I say, I got salmon. I like to do salmon for this. It doesn't matter what you use. You just want something fairly thick, like a sort of like a steaky type fish to do this. I have a little bit more filling, spice mixture because I have two fairly big pieces because I bought a whole fillet and I had it in my freezer and I took two pieces out. So what you want to do is you want to melt your half stick of butter. Now you can either do that in the microwave or do it in a pot. It's entirely up to you, whatever way you want to do it. I'll throw mine in the microwave and just let it melt. There we go. Now, ideally with this, a cast iron pan is best. All right. If you don't have one, it's kind of hard to get it as hot as is required. I actually also have a cast iron griddle right here on my stove, but I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use my cast iron. If you have a cast iron pan, what I want you to do is to turn it on, and we're going to leave it without anything in it for about 8 or 9 minutes. All right, which I know sounds totally bizarre, but use the heaviest bottom pan you have. If you only have a pan that is, a coated one, non-stick, I mean, then you're just going to heat it for maybe 3 or 4 minutes in a minute. I'll wait for you guys to finish that. Your spices for your fish, all right, you want to combine those together. And whatever fish you're using, pat your fish dry. You can choose to leave the skin on or off. I'm going to leave the skin on. And I'm actually going to put this on a clear piece of aluminum so that any extra leftover mixed spices I have, I can pick up and then put back on the fish. We're not going to use the aluminum. I'm just going to do this so we can recapture this. What you're looking with a cast iron pan is this should get almost like white hot, okay? Which is going to take a few minutes. Thirsty. So we're going to let that heat up. Now with your spices, what I want you to do is to mix them together. I've got mine mixed together in here, but I want to mix them together in my little bowls that they're all combined, okay? So here we have, in here we've got the thyme, cayenne, onion powder, garlic powder, oregano, white pepper, black pepper, salt and paprika. All right, all mixed together. My paprika's got a couple of lumps in it, so I'm going to get rid of those. Let's talk about the blackening before. There's a page on blackening. I'm going to read it to you guys. About the technique for blackening. The secret to this is uniform cooking, all right, and uniform spread of your spices, which is important. So when we sprinkle our spices over here, they want to be all over and fairly uniform. I've got another sheet here. I'm trying to find it because that one was not typed very well. It printed funny. We'll get there in a minute. Oh, there it is. I got it. So we want to sprinkle them evenly. Your pan wants to be really, really hot, okay? Best with gas and on cast iron works at its best. If not, you really want to let your pan heat if you've got electric for a longer time to get it really, really hot. When you first put your your meat or your fish shouldn't be more than half an inch thick. Between half and 3/4 inch thick. What you may find, you want at least an inch between your two pieces of fish in your pan. When you initially put your fish in, you may see flames flare up. All right, so you might want to have a lid close by to put on if that happens. All right, so I'm going to grab one of my lids. The idea is here that the pan is so hot that what happens is the fish doesn't actually really touch the pan. It does, but I mean, it's sort of hovering above it. That the spices crisp up as you put it on the pan, and that helps to keep the fish or the meat suspended a little bit. All right, and then we turn it over, and it's a real quick cooking, just a few minutes on each side. All right. So if you look at the actual recipe. Fish at room temperature, all right, much better. All the seasonings mixed together. We're going to dip or coat each fillet in butter. Now, you can either dip it in or you can just use a pastry brush and coat it, all right? You want to do it just before you put it in the pan. Don't put it ahead of time because it'll all soak in, okay? We're going to sprinkle this stuff all over, and then we're going to put the fillets in the pan, add about a teaspoon of butter to it, the melted butter. And leave room between the fillets, and then don't put it, you don't want to put it on the pan ahead of time because it will congeal. About 2 or 3 minutes on each side, and then turn it over. So I am going to turn this around again. If you want to look at the overhead, I mean, not quite hot enough yet, but if you want to look at the overhead, hopefully you'll be able to see my pan is getting pretty hot there. It's smoking. So I'm going to put my extractor fan. I apologize. My extractor is rather noisy. But I want to let that pan get really way hotter than you would expect. All right. All right. I'm going to leave my gumbo. I put my lid half on, half off. So I want to get a little bit of evaporation. All right. Doesn't really help with the light off, does it? So if you have cast iron, you really want it to get white hot, if possible. You can also only cook things to medium stage of doneness. You cannot cook them to well done. Well done, they will burn. All right. So obviously with the fish, we want to do medium, medium rare. But you wouldn't want to put chicken with medium, but you wouldn't want to cook something on here till it's well done, steak or something. So you can see it's starting to get white hot. Not quite there yet. All right. So I'm going to use a pastry brush for to coat my fish in a minute. So hotter than you expect, hotter than you would anticipate, I should say. A watch pan never gets hot enough, right? All right, I am going to start brushing my fish with butter. So do one at a time. Evenly as possible, sprinkle your coating over it, okay? Okay, so I've done the one side. I'm going to turn these guys over, put butter on the skin side, and do the same. And that was to say, that's why I've caught the extra stuff, because I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more of that on in a minute. Get it as even as you can, all right? Actually, probably got plenty here. I made a little bit extra because I had some big pieces of fish, but all right, I think I'm going to go with it. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put it in, and then I'm going to put a little bit of the butter in with it, okay? All right, so I'm going to go, as I say, I'm going to go skin side down. And I'm going to put a teaspoon of butter in. I'm actually moving this to the back so that my all right, my timer has just gone off. So I'm going to check and see if all my liquid that mixture might make you cough as the flame. Let's see. Yes, it has all absorbed. All right. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. It'll make you cough. Woo! And I'm going to check on my rice as well and see if the liquid has been absorbed. Probably not quite yet. I don't know. No, not yet. All right. So I'm going to put it back in. Woo! All right. All right. So I'm going to turn these over. Excuse me. And add a little bit more butter. Let's check my. Oh, no, what am I doing? If you look at the overhead, you can see how brown these are getting. It does go like black brown, but that's okay. All right. I think those are good. Oh my gosh, almost makes you cough. All right, take this off there. Woo! All right. Should be nice and moist inside. All right. I'm going to cover these with a piece of foil and just put them in the oven to keep them warm. Oh my goodness, does make you cough. All right, I can turn the extractor off now. Peace. That spice blend really makes you cough. All right. So with our corn, I've just put in my scallions and I'm just breaking up my bacon. And I'm going to put that in and then let it cook for a few more minutes. Ugh. Ugh. Those spices get you. I didn't actually have a timer on my chicken, but so I'm going to check it in a minute and see how it's doing. It should be nearly cooked, I think. With your corn, stir this in low heat and then just check the seasoning. You might want a little bit of salt and pepper. Salt and pepper in it. Okay, I think I'm gonna. I tasted mine. I think I need a little bit more salt and a tiny bit of pepper. Let that cook for a couple more minutes. My rice is cooking rather slowly. I've got a funny feeling there's something a bit wrong with that lower oven of mine. All right, so let that cook for a couple of minutes. Now, with our gumbo, what I want you to do is to check to see if your chicken pieces are cooked. They should pierce easily with a knife, and they should look cooked inside, and these do. They look good. Now, it'll depend on how big your chicken pieces are. Mine looks pretty good. So I am going to add that little bit of flour, wherever the heck I put it. Oh, there it is. Now, because I'm actually adding flour, not file, because I haven't got any file here. What I'm going to do, excuse me, is put this in here, and I'm going to add like a teaspoon of water to it, so that it doesn't go lumpy when I mix it in. All right. So just a tiny bit of water and mix it together. Otherwise, it's going to be all lumpy. I'm going to just add that. And then stir it in. Trying to find a wooden spoon. Plenty of wooden spoons. Where are they all? A couple more. Here we go. Stir that in. Put your heat back on low, just so we get rid of that floury taste. All right. Let it come back to a boil, and that will thicken it just a little bit. Okay. And you may want to take your bay leaves out if you remember to do that. I often don't remember to do that. And let it just come back to a boil. Okay. Everybody okay? Right. So we're going to let that come back to a simmer, to a boil rather, and then let it cook for a couple of minutes at a simmer. All right. Just taste my corn. Yeah. Tastes pretty good. All right. I'm going to clean up this a little bit so we can start putting stuff out. Actually, I'm going to lay this on because it's, oven-proof glass. I don't want it to crack when I put it on the cold counter. All right. You want to taste this? Make sure it doesn't taste floury anymore. And if it doesn't, then you can turn it off. Gosh, those spices have made my nose run. All right, checking my rice. So let me get a spoon and check my rice. No, not quite there yet. Oh dear me! I don't know why. I don't know whether my oven's being a bit funny. I don't know, but it's all right. Okay, so with the dessert then, how you'd serve this? I'm going to do one portion in a bowl. Big spoon. Oh, it smells really good. I could eat it right now. And then I'm just going to reheat the bananas just till they're hot. How is everybody's rice? Mine, I don't know why, but there's something wacky with my oven. Mine hasn't actually cooked yet. Have everybody's cooked? Has your rice cooked? Yeah, mine, it should definitely be cooked by now, but it isn't fully.
Ours, I would say, is overcooked. It's kind of gummy. It tastes good, but it's not, there's no rice kernels anymore. It's
yeah, mine, as you say, I don't know why. It doesn't seem to be cooking. I actually have some other rice from a dish I did last night, so I might put that in the gumbo to show you guys because it's not completely done yet. And as I say, I'm not really sure why. I've been having I've had a couple of questions with my bottom oven, and I really actually should go and get a meat thermometer and check it because I've got a feeling it's not heating up to temperature. All right, so my bananas are hot. So this is what you do. Serve them with a couple of pieces of your banana on the top like that. Bit of your juice from your bananas. Woo, lovely, lovely. And then I'm going to put a little bit of whipped cream on the top. I guess this could be my late lunch, right? So just a dollop of whipped cream on the top like that. Okay. And then for my gumbo, as I say, I'll do it with this rice just to show you what. So what you typically do is you take about a half a cup of the rice, you use your nice rice, and pop it in the middle of your bowl like that, and then serve your gumbo over the top. You get a piece of chicken, 1 or 2 pieces of chicken with it like this. And you can choose to take the skin off if you want to. And then a good amount of the other ingredients you pour on the top. This is good for 2 to 3 people, I would think, easily. Like that. All right. And then I'm going to put this in a bowl. That is our makshu. We're not quite sure what it means. Let's probably try and research exactly what it means. You could sprinkle some extra parsley on there or something if you wanted to, which would be kind of nice. And then our fish. And of course, you could serve your fish with the rice as well. I love this this rice dish, which mine isn't finished, because hopefully if you've managed to taste it, it's very flavorful. All the flavors come together and it's very easy to do, except when your oven's not working properly. All right, so, excuse me. So our fish looks lovely, still nice and moist inside. The gumbo, makshu, and our dessert right here. Okay. All right. Well, as I say, we're done a few minutes early. That's okay. But I don't know whether you're going to eat this now or going to wait and eat it later. I just want to eat my dessert, I think. I don't think I want the rest. No, I'm going to have it all a bit later on. And my rice, I'm going to take a look at it. But I do apologize. I've never had this happen to my rice before. It's definitely got to be my oven. Let's see if it's managed to. Oh, it's almost there, I think. Let me see. Yes, actually, I think it's pretty much there. Let me have a quick look. I did actually turn my oven up a little bit, and I took my top off, so that could be, yeah, let me have a quick look. Yeah, no, it needs a little bit longer. It's still a bit watery. That's very strange. But there it is, but it doesn't look as nice as, I mean, it looks nice, but the liquid still needs to evaporate. And I think it's my oven is a bit flaky. So I definitely need to get checked out, and I'll do that. But I can pop it back in and we can eat it later on. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, everybody. I hope you had fun. I hope I didn't go too fast. If you think of anything else you have questions about or something you suddenly realize you missed, I know we didn't bake the dessert in a water bath. I kind of forgot about that. It doesn't really have to happen. It's just an extra precaution to save it from overcooking, but I think it works fine really without. But any other questions, please, because I know I go kind of fast and I want to make sure that you guys got it all down pat, and you can just, send me an email or something, or Whatever. All right, take care. Hope to see you all again soon. Bye-bye. Bye.